Welcome to Horror Movies with TNA. Each episode, we're going to pick a film, talk about it, and rate it. Word of warning, there will be spoilers. This week, we're talking about
Alice, Sweet Alice.
Catholic guilt.
There's a lot of screaming.
Yeah.
Auntie Annie screams like a good one, doesn't she? Hairy hobbit feet. I wish I had a hobbit's knob.
Hello.
Right. Carpenter.
What?
John, he's going to love this. And then he'll finally answer all my emails to appear on our podcast. At fucking long last. Carpenter. I love you, John.
I was going to say we met him twice. We went to watch him twice.
Yes. He's the reason I get up in the morning. Listen.
Because he nudges you.
Okay. Should we start? No, it's because I'm shouting.
You've got to turn the levels down.
You and your levels.
Today,
we're going to be talking about Alice, Sweet Alice from 76.
a.k.a. Communion, which I like better.
Yeah.
I like Alice, Sweet Alice is all right, but...
Crack on, let's get moving.
Oh, Jesus. Holy Terror, which is the absolutely butchered cut version, and Mask Murders.
Yes.
Which is probably the worst title. Although it rhymes. Mask Murders. Well, it doesn't rhyme.
No, it rhymes with something. Holy Terror was released in 81, the cut version. Alice, Sweet Alice was originally made in 76. Same year as Omen, Assault on Precinct 13, and Carrie, I think. Yeah.
Assault on Precinct 13 wasn't made in 76.
Don't look. This is the internet. Don't blame me.
Well, maybe it was.
Not yours.
Anyway, you do know it's based in 61.
Well.
So I did a bit of research by going on YouTube for about 5 seconds.
Most unlike you.
Just as it says, directed by Alfred Soule, it then says something about 1961 in the bottom left-hand corner.
Okay. Yes, as you've already mentioned, directed by Alfred Soule, who actually died in February 2022, age 78. No.
I wrote down that he also wrote it with Rosemary Revito.
Right, listen. Let's go through the cast. We've got Catherine Spage, Linda Miller. She was in
James Brolin's Night of the Juggler.
Okay.
I tell you what, that dropped some balls. I don't know.
The biggest name check, although she's only in the film for fucking 5 minutes, is Brooke Shields. It's Karen Spage. We've got Alice Spage, Paula Shepherd, and Dom Spage, the dad, who's Niles McMaster. He was in Bloodsucking Freaks, along with Alfonso de Noble, who's Mr. Alfonso, the landlord. He was also in Bloodsucking Freaks and Night of the Zombies. We'll talk a lot about him later on, I'm sure. And also, I suppose the only other one who's annoying throughout the film is Jane Lowry, who stars as Aunt Annie, who is Catherine's sister, meddling sister.
Yeah.
Acting, yes, she's awesome. Music by Stephen J. Lawrence.
Yeah,
He's credited, I like the music, he's credited as doing a lot of music for Sesame Street. That was the only kind of interesting thing.
Did he do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12?
Maybe not, maybe so. If he did, he deserves something.
Yeah. It's the only reason I can count to 12 now. I can't get past, what's the one after 12? That's it. I can only get to 12.
Let's start. Let's begin the movie. Striking opening sequence. I think we've already mentioned this.
Oh, the title sequence
yes,
really, really
I
good.
really liked it. Veiled figure reciting the words of the communion, I think. Can't really hear what she's saying.
No, she's going about
oh,
Jesus.
Yeah. And then it's kind of strangely jerky, isn't it? As she brings up a knife. And then the Alice Sweet Alice title appears. On another version I looked at, it's exactly the same, but it appeared with Holy Terror.
Yeah, but I don't know, does it cut out her doing it, her saying anything?
Yeah, it's cut slightly different.
Well, actually, we say she produces a knife, but then it does this weird animation-y jerking, and then she pulls up the crucifix, and it's got a big knife on the down bit, which I've drawn here.
On the down bit of the crucifix.
I don't know what the down bit, the bottom T bit. You know.
The vertical.
But yeah, you realise there's a knife under it, and then it goes. But mine said copyrighted 98.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah. Catherine Spage goes to visit Father Tom with daughter Karen, 9, and Alice, 12. Karen is preparing for her first communion. Alice seems a bit odd and she's strangely transfixed by religious imagery and is a bit jealous of the attention that her sis Karen gets, and that's a theme that plays throughout the film. Yeah, so that's the opening bit. And it immediately it has Alice donning one of the translucent masks, and obviously there, that's one of the key visuals to the film.
Yeah,
the yellow mac, and apparently this film was heavily influenced by
Don't Look Now.
Don't Look Now. It says Hitchcock again. I mean, this film is
definitely,
as you'll like this. It probably America's first real stab at a giallo, because it's very kind of influenced by a giallo.
I was going to say, but it massively is. The music does that.
Some of the shots as well, close-ups on people's eyes and things like that.
Yeah, loads of close-up on faces that linger for ages. Stuff happening in the background, and there's even a bit with photos which goes across them, which reminds me of Deep Red.
Kind of pans across them.
Yeah, and all that.
Right near the beginning of the film, Alice dons one of these translucent masks and a yellow mac, and she scares Father Tom's housekeeper, Mrs. Tredoni.
Played by Mildred Clinton, you said.
Mildred Clinton, yes.
Who's Italian? Well, at least she's speaking Italian in this.
Yeah. I mean, Alice is particularly annoyed because Father Tom has gifted Karen a family crucifix.
It's
present.
It's a weird starting scene, to
yes.
be quite honest. I mean, and then she goes, "I love you, Father Tom. Oh, baby."
I'm going to say something straight away. There's a lot of uncomfortable adult males paying Alice far too much attention. Well, paying any young girls far too much attention. And it's even sold that way in the trailer that I watched as well, which I'll mention later on.
Oh, no, I didn't watch the trailer on.
Anyway, so yes.
The worst bit is bloody with, well, we'll get to it with Alfonso.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he's played out as a big fat slob and he's meant to be a bit of a pervert. But even some of the people like policemen and even the Father Tom, who the children should rely on and trust in, that even they seem kind of, it's uncomfortable in bits.
Yeah.
Alice also steals Karen's doll that was a gift from her dad. So there's lots of bickering, and Alice is throughout the film implicated with a murder that we're going to talk about. All the evidence would show that she's a bit strange, isn't she? I think she's a brat, and she probably does have some kind of psychological.
So whether it's her or not during the entire film, it doesn't really matter because she's got problems anyway. So it could be her, even if she hasn't done it just now.
Yes. So that's the kind of opening scenes, I suppose. There's one scene where Mask Mac, wearing Alice, lures Karen into a abandoned building, and Alice removes a mask to reveal a hag mask underneath.
Yeah, that was good, that.
Yes. So you're expecting it to be Alice's face, and then it's kind of like a hag's face, and then Alice removes that mask.
Actually, now you think about it, because it's an older hag's face.
It's giving you clues to who it might be from the beginning.
Clever, that.
Yes. Clever. I mean, Karen's really whiny. Not that she deserves
fucking
to die.
They're all fucking... I mean, no offence, but this... Well, actually, offence to this film. There's a problem with this film in terms of the way young girls are...
portrayed or dealt with.
And just generally women... Blokes always calm down, shush.
Yeah. And the women are hysterical.
Hysterical or manic or screaming or arguing. And you go, bloody hell.
Shut up, darling.
But that's what the blokes are like in this. So it is... I know also it is meant to be based in the 60s, which, again, if you've not seen the right version of the film, you wouldn't immediately get.
It's Mr. Alfonso time. There's a lot of energy spent in this film to make him appear really unlikable. He kind of sits on his bed, feeds his cats, eats cat food himself. He's a kind of quite a large guy, sweaty and...
Massive sort of sweat patch right on his crotch.
Yes, I don't know
all the way through the film.
Well, yes, it appears as though he's wet himself. And he's got no eyebrows as well, which is...
I didn't notice that.
Which is a bit...
Too busy looking at his crotch. Don't look at the eyebrows when you're looking at the crotch.
We're introduced to the landlord. We'll get back to him later on, I think. Church communion. So now we move to the church and we meet meddling on Annie and the two sisters. Catherine and Annie don't like each other. They don't get on. And you can kind of see why, because Annie's an interfering kind of busybody character. And this is where we have the murder of Karen, the younger sister Karen, by a masked wearing killer, again in a yellow mat. That's the trademark of the killer. Strangled in the church transept. Do you like that?
Where'd you get that fucker from?
A transept, listen, Wikipedia. A transept is an area set crosswise to the nave in a cruciformed building.
Right. Anyway.
Strangled in the church transept. I'm not doing that fucking bit again. She has a...
So what are you going to do? Cut
yeah,
bit
I'll chuck that in. Chuck that in.
Keep this bit in
transept,
when you're saying you're cutting it out. Yeah.
Well, yeah, don't forget about transept. And
I could.
And Karen gets her newly gifted crucifix ripped from her body, and then the killer dumps her in a bench and actually sets fire to her as well. It seems a bit.
Yeah, do you see a set of fire?
Well, it's quite jarring because there is the communion scene, and then it switches to Karen already being kind of strangled with a. Looks like a candle or something.
I thought it was like nunchucks.
Yeah. Well, a church nunchucks is the candle. And then she's dumped in one of the church benches, and then she's set on fire as well, which is...
But you don't see her lit.
No, you don't see anything.
No,
you just see this...
The nun going...
Oh, a really...
I thought that was incense or something at first. When you see wafting, I thought, how's incense getting sucked into there?
They'd set it... so her body's discovered by a nun. Wonderful acting as well by that nun. Yeah, it brings the communion to a halt. Karen's dead and Alice is 100% guilty. That's it. Dominic Spage arrives, the ex of Catherine, the dad, for the funeral of Karen. And then obviously he sticks around to do a bit of independent snooping to try and uncover the truth. Whilst we're introduced to Detectives Brennan and Spina, who conduct the official investigation. And they're fucking useless. I don't know why they're even in the film. They uncover and do not well, maybe towards the end, but they do very little anyway.
Only after pretty much being given the frigging evidence. Anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, and this is often how these films pan out, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's the protagonists who uncover the truth. During the wake, Alice is asked to take a cake downstairs for Mr. Alfonso.
Oh yeah, this is...
And he says to Karen, "It's all over. Well, you die and then they put you in a box. It's over. Such a shame. Such a pretty girl too." Talking of 9-year-old Karen. So we know he's a pervert. Too bad she was the one to end up in the box, he says directly at Alice, which is really nice. Yeah, beautiful. A beautiful little scene.
But having said that, Alice has been a shit to him before this anyway.
Oh, she more than holds her own with him.
There's Alice, another young lady, and a lad. Give Mr. Alfonso a cake from the wake.
Well, it's a wake cake, isn't it? Now that does fucking rhyme.
It just doesn't make any fucking sense. I'm going to say it.
Well, no, none of these films...
Well, no, but we've had this discussion before about whether it has to make sense. When it's like absolutely overblown and mental, correct. This isn't that, though. This is more of a murder mystery horror film.
I'm going to disagree with that. I still don't think it needs to make sense. I don't think when you enter into any of these types of films, you need to get too bogged down.
I don't know. It irritated me. Why?
Mind you, if it distracts you from the story, then for you, maybe it's not such a good thing. Anyway, everybody continues to suspect Alice, except for the mum and dad, who fight her corner throughout the film, as you would expect. About half an hour in, I think, 25 minutes. And I think then the police discover there have been repeated requests for Alice to see a psychiatrist. So again, it heightens the police suspicions that it could be Alice because there's been requests and nobody's ever took them up on it. So Auntie Annie continues to be a tit and battles with Alice and Mum.
Over spilt milk.
Well, literally over spilt milk. And she's staying with them to help out, and she's doing the opposite of that and testing everybody.
Right,
including the viewer's patience. Catherine asks Alice to take the rent check down to Alfonso.
Yeah, this is wrong.
So we've got another interchange between Alice and Mr. Alfonso, the pervert downstairs. He attempts to attack her, or molest her, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's quite over the top. I was because he grabs her face. I mean, it's still a kid. Although I do think Alice, I don't know, we probably should have checked this, but is she older?
So when at the time of filming,
27.
At the time of filming, the girl Paula Shepherd was 19.
Oh, right.
So
she does look a lot older.
And actually, it's evident in her voice sometimes that she's got a kind of a woman's voice.
Yeah,
so.
19 is probably older than I thought. Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank God, because it's uncomfortable. Because he literally, in the scene where she's giving the check and he's, I don't know, I can't quite remember. But
well, he grabs her to, doesn't he? And she backs away.
But he grabs her face and then you can't quite see it because he's pushing her, but he's going in for a big snog.
Yeah.
But then it gets worse in a way.
Well, this is the
especially
bit where...
if you like cats.
Yeah, so he attempts to attack her, and this is probably the infamous scene in the film, actually. He attempts to attack her, and to escape, she grabs one of his precious cats, handles it very roughly, and then throws it to the floor. Animal cruelty. It wouldn't be allowed now. And
I don't think you see it hit the floor.
No. She throws it to the floor. You don't see it hit it. I'm hoping somebody was there underneath the camera to catch it. And then you hear, as she escapes, you hear him shouting, "You killed my cat, my baby," because the cats are the one thing that's precious to him. So yeah, there's little bits that have been. I'll talk about what's been cut from the film later on. Obviously, is included. Yeah, yeah. So
they're cut from the version we watched.
No. We saw the Alice one was definitely the uncut one. They'd released it with bits cut out of it. So he was this was his first film.
What's his real name as well?
Alfonso. He was a doorman, and I think Bloodsucking Freaks and one other film were his only films.
I would say that I think he's being dubbed on this as well because he's got one of the weirdest sort of poshest voices in it.
Well, he kind of talks to he kind of talks to his cats, my darlings, and kind of he talks to his cats in a weird kind of. But maybe he
talks to her as well. He talks to everyone. Goes, oh yes.
He wouldn't have used. I suspect as a doorman, he wouldn't have used that same voice.
I think he's been dubbed very badly.
Get
I'm hoping
fucking out of here, you bastards!
Yes. I mean. I don't know. His acting is probably okay, but the dubbing for him is terrible.
I think the way they've portrayed him and he's acted, and it's a perfect because he's kind of quite a revolting character, so it's perfect the way it's played. Evidence continues to stack up against the sister Alice. 200% guilty. Generally, when Alice is looking shiftily around and donning the mask and mac. This is the film. It'll have a scene where she's playing with the translucent mask and putting the mac on, and then really obviously it's followed by a scene where somebody's being
this
attacked.
Is the problem I've got.
It's very. But again, that's probably how a lot of these films played out. That they would give it. It's really blatantly trying to push you in one direction, and then maybe when it reveals the real killer. You're not that bothered anyway. I don't know. But I think
with good giallos or just but with good, they don't egg it as much as this bleeder does. I mean, they're really trying to say, yeah, sir, and you could have just got that from the beginning bit, going, yeah, it's probably her.
Hey, maybe they should have turned it on its head and actually just made it
her.
Made it her.
But then they're doing an unusual thing anyway. Like it's not. There's another 20 odd minutes.
Yeah,
to
after
go.
the reveal. Well, actually, I've probably written the time because I'm boring, aren't I? I've probably written the times down, but I think it's probably an hour.
Yeah.
No, not an hour before the end. It's probably an hour into the film when we reveal it. So there's still about 40 minutes to go. My favourite scene, probably. Right, so wind-up merchant Auntie Annie gets attacked on the stairs. And this is where she stumbles out into the rain. Really good.
But this is really unexpected because nothing really has led up to this being a horror film, to be honest.
But this is a proper knife attack. So on the stairway, Annie has a knife. Oh, yeah, she has a knife plunged through the railings onto her thigh. And then on her foot, it stabs through her foot as well.
That's one of the worst bits. Yeah. They did well with that effect. I mean, I didn't rewind to look how good it was. Because she's like on the stairwell and the other person's lower level. So she's just stabbing what she can get
through the railings, isn't she?
Yeah. So she just gets her thigh and then just gets her right into her foot. And she's got an open shoe.
Yes.
a lady's
So
shirt.
it's straightened. And the director, from what I read, had said he wanted to do the kind of attacks that people found really uncomfortable, which I suppose in the leg and the foot. So that's what he'd gone for.
Yeah.
And then Auntie Annie crawls out into the street and it's pouring with rain and there's like a kind of blood spreading on the pavement. So yeah, it's quite good, quite gruesome.
It's
quite a good scene.
It is the best scene, really.
However,
there's a more grimmer bit, but I think that's better.
Yeah, visually,
it's more shocking.
As long as you can endure the constant Annie screeching throughout the scene, which becomes a little bit unbearable. But yeah, no, overall, really good scene. Beautiful. We're at the hospital with Annie, so she's been taken to the hospital. Catherine, the sister, tries to convince Annie not to say her attacker was Alice because she's convinced. I mean, all she's seen is a mask-wearing person. This is where there's lots of screeching and screaming.
This is where it lost marks. The acting is too much. Because, like I say, the sister comes in to convince Annie, come on.
I like the focus on her eyes, though, because she's behind like a little screen and then she walks past it. I like that.
The camera work was kind of okay. It was... And I can't...
They're interchanged.
Yeah, I put it's hysterics and it's hysterical and then it goes beyond that to... Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Just stop screaming at each other because we're done. And I've just put a tour de force of screaming at each other, for fuck's sake.
Yes. The only relief of this scene is that actually we don't see Annie in the film again. That's the last we see of her.
Yeah, well, maybe that's why they thought, we'll give her a good send-off by making it one of the worst scenes in the bastard film.
The history, the annals of cinema.
Jeez. It's not a good scene, that. Have I mentioned?
Okay, another, I thought, uncomfortable scene. This is where Alice is subjected to a polygraph test, a lie detector test.
Oh, the bit after this, yeah.
After this, she's sent to a psychiatric ward for evaluation. But it's the exchange between the detective Spina and the polygraph man that's really odd. Because again, he says, she is a weird little girl. Did you notice her tits? Now, we're talking about a 12-year-old girl here. When I went to put the tube around her, she looked at me like she wanted me to feel her up. And again, it's like kind of bit...
But then the end, instead of the police officer going, oh, what?
Yeah.
He goes, something about, oh, she's a bitch.
Well, he kind of like says, yeah, okay, yeah.
Alice doesn't do herself any favours because then she smashes up.
Yes, the polygraph machine goes on the floor and gets smashed.
And then she goes off to the nut house. Let's be honest, that's what happens next.
There's a very brief scene where they have a quick discussion where there's some suggestion that actually it could be Auntie Annie's daughter, Angela.
Right.
But this doesn't really go anywhere at that point. But Mrs. Tredonis overhears this exchange.
I missed that.
Yeah, well, that is slightly
But she doesn't
key.
use it for any reason, though, does she?
Well, she does, because later on,
I missed that then.
She rings up Alice's dad, claiming to be Angela. That's how she lures him, we'll talk about this later, to that building. Yeah. So she tries to imitate Angela.
That bit I didn't get. You probably need to cut this out. It's me usually not concentrating.
Parents go to visit Alice in the psychiatric place where a doctor expresses concerns about Alice and her mental state.
Too long.
Anyway, listen. The bit I didn't quite understand was why Alice kept claiming she saw Karen. There's a few different scenes where Alice still claims after Karen's murder that she believed it was Karen.
Unless it was because she'd got the necklace on.
Maybe. I couldn't.
But otherwise, it's just going to be someone with a mask that she's got and a yellow thing that she's got.
Yeah.
So the only defining feature is the necklace. But again, Alice is round the bend as well. So.
Someone claiming to be Angela, Annie's daughter, calls Alice's dad, Dom, in a right 2 and 8. He agrees to meet her in an abandoned building. Well, he agrees to meet her, and then he spots a masked Mac-wearing person and gives chase into an abandoned building.
Oh, when he rings her up, there's a bit of deep breathing first. It's a bit deep, and I thought Black Christmas. Anyone? But then that whole scene of over-dramatic, over-the-shoulder acting, where they look in space.
You've really got it in for this. He spots Mask Mac, gives chase into an abandoned building, and gets a knife in his shoulder. Then he wrestles the knife away from the killer.
Bit of
and
psycho music here as
well.
well.
Well, I like this bit. And I always like a falling knife. He wrestles the knife away and it falls down a stairwell and sticks in the handrail, which I liked. This is it. So an hour and 12 minutes. So it is about half an hour before the end. The reveal is that it's Mrs. Tridonis, Father Tom's housekeeper. Wow.
Fuck. Well.
Listen, she bops him on the head with a brick and ties him up.
Oh yeah, well she even goes like this with two like big stones. She goes,
yeah, well she grabs some
together.
Yes.
Doesn't she?
Dom bites Karen's crucifix off Mrs. Tredoni's neck and tries to swallow it, while Tredonis tries to batter him in the teeth with a shoe. It's quite brutal.
That was fucking grim. That was really because she's just going, "Oh well, me bloody crossbow." But
a crossbow.
Crossback.
Yeah, she batter him on the teeth. Horrible.
Yeah, keeps hitting him while pushing him to a ledge as well.
Reminiscent of the teeth bashing scene in Deep Red.
I was thinking actually, opera, because where he's trying to get with a pair of scissors, because a necklace goes into that lady's mouth.
I haven't seen opera in years.
His necklace goes into her mouth, and that's a clue of who the killer is.
Oh!
She's doing it for a different reason, which is mainly she wants
to bash his fucking head off.
Well, no, she just wants a bloody crucifix necklace back, I would guess. But in that, the killer in opera knows that that'll be a clue. So that was reminiscent of that. So Argento could have nicked it.
Well, maybe this was probably his inspiration for all of his life's work. She binds him up. Anyway, she pushes him out of a delivery door. Third floor delivery door.
It's quite a good fall. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not a big Benny Hill dummy for those that ever seen Benny Hill.
It's not like a dummy falling and then a bit of editing. It looks reasonably good. And,
you see him. You just see him land near some bottles, and that's it. So it's still well done, that bit. That murder, that whole bit is good. Again, there's really good bit. Well, really good. There's good bits in this.
I think all of the murders and the kills are quite good. I think there's a bit of a lull on occasions in between them, but I think the kills are okay. I mean, actually, there's only 4.
Yeah.
4 or 5.
That's what I mean. So when you say there's a bit of a lull, there's a fucking massive
I disagree. It's a beautifully crafted work of art. Catherine, Alice's mum, goes to visit Father Tom. He's not in. Tridonis is there and explains. We get a bit of a backstory to Tridonis because now we know she's the killer. It's like Columbo. Now we know she's the killer.
I wish it was that good.
Yeah. And Tridonis is there and explains that her own daughter died at her first communion and realised that children are punished for the sins of their parents. Yep.
I missed all this.
Catherine's sinful because she became pregnant with Alice's dad, Dom. Oh no, she became pregnant with Alice before they were married and actually divorced as well. Premarital sin. Oh!
Fucking hellfire.
No, well.
Making up a lot of.
This is Catholic.
Backpedaling to the ball bags.
This is not allowed, especially in the 60s as well.
Oh no, I'm fine with the reasoning. It's just all in one go, but I suppose it's a bit yellow.
Yeah, but you see, I like this scene again because when Mrs. Tridonis is explaining all this, she's kind of staring right at the camera and she points her knife at the camera really threateningly. I didn't like it.
To be honest, there's a lot of where someone's looking at the camera in general, actually.
Talking to the camera. Yeah. And also, we know Catherine tells Mrs. Tridonis that she's looking for her husband or ex, Dom. Obviously, Tridonis has done him in. And we know that he's dead with his teeth bashed in as well. So it's a tense scene, isn't it? And then, I just made a note on here that I said she points her knife at the viewer. It's almost like she's starring in a cheap 80s 3D movie. I like it. Like that. Like Friday the 13th Part 3.
That would have got 20 more points off me, that fucker.
Well, if they made Alice Sweet Alice 3D, you wouldn't be able to contain yourself, would you? Catherine learns that Dom's dead, so there's more screaming and screeching. The autopsy reveals the crucifix in Dom's gob. This then eliminates Alice as a suspect, so she's free to leave the psychiatric ward, but actually her mum kind of wants us to stay in there a bit long, I think. They go to pick her up, although the mum decides not to tell Alice that her dad's dead, so she probably thinks she's been through enough at the moment, but that's that. Anyway, that's fine, isn't it? Mrs. Tridonis grabs her murder bag and decides to pay the Spagers a visit.
Yeah, she puts her mask in, puts a knife in.
Yeah, she packs up for all the
sandwiches.
gear. Yeah. Alfonso is asleep. Alice has only been back from the psychiatric ward 5 minutes and she's already leaving a jar full of cockroaches balanced on sleeping Alfonso.
But tells her mum she's left him a present. And
yes.
She goes, oh, what a nice thought.
Anyway, Tridonis rocks up and he's interrupted by Alfonso, he comes screaming out of his room because he's got these cockroaches. And at that point, he bumps into Mrs. Tridonis, who stabs him a couple of times. He is dead.
Yeah, well, this bit I didn't mind because the whole idea was he kind of fucks up because he goes, he thinks it's Alice fucking, and he gets it badly wrong. 2 stabs right into the old meatiness because you don't really see it. Goes into his white vest.
It's
sweaty.
Sweaty.
Yeah. But that is from the Video Nasty front cover, I remember. So on the front cover, the original British Video Nasty, and it might be on the DVDs that they brought out later. But if you look it up on Google anyway, it comes up with this image. And it's got Alfonso getting stabbed, and it's getting stabbed by the old lady on the front
reveals
cover.
It's a bit of a... Yes.
So immediately, within 1 millisecond before you've even seen the film,
you know who the killer
is. Yeah.
Yes, rendering the...
I mean, if you look... Actually, I might have it on my phone, but if you look, I'll show you now.
So, Tony's showing me a picture...
From the Video Nasty cover, although I think it was a DVD, which explains it, so... It's a good cover, isn't it?
Showing an old woman, and I...
You can tell, can't you? It's definitely not Alice.
Well, I like the idea that we saw Alice in an old lady's mask. So maybe that's the device they were using.
I think it's the perm that gives it
away.
away.
It's kind of showing that Alice isn't the killer, but Mrs. Tridonis, which is a shame, really, isn't it?
But it's the colouring as well. It kind of keeps it in shadow, and it's a weird comic kind of colour. I kind of
like it.
I remember this cover in the video shop, but it does give it away. Would you agree?
Would you agree? Anyway, so Alfonso's been stabbed a couple of times. He's dead. Detective Spinner rocks up and spots Mrs. Tridonis hastily exiting the scene. So now everybody, including the viewer, knows who the killer... Well, we already knew anyway, didn't we, who the killer is. But everybody in the film knows now. Tridonis rushes to the church for communion, by which time the police are waiting for her. Father Tom insists on continuing the service, but refuses her communion and gets a knife in the neck, which I wasn't expecting.
Well,
really.
no, and you've again. I'm not okay. I'm not bothered. It makes no sense. But I am bothered that there doesn't feel a lot of tension in it. It just goes on a bit because it's a good 5-10 minutes.
Well, I think it's quite an emotional scene when she's wanting communion and he denies her having it, and
when it gets to that fucking bit, what I'm saying is, up to that, she's there. Then he'll
it's a little bit drawn out, isn't it?
Fucking hell, yes.
But this is absolutely the end of the film.
Yeah, and that's good. Again, when she just goes...
She stabs Father Tom in the neck, and then she grabs him and hugs him as of Father Tom's blood is running down.
And I've seen the uncut version, the totally uncut raw version of that. If you're on YouTube, just of that one scene, there was some raw footage where he spurts out blood as well.
Oh, okay. What, spits it out?
Yeah. Which you don't see that. Which makes it a little bit grimmer.
At this point, the police charge in whilst...
Yeah, it's a bit late.
Well, whilst Alice...
Why are they hovering there, waiting for him to get... Oh, yeah, he's got stabbed in the neck.
Father Tom insists to the police that he says that if you charge in too early...
I can't get stabbed in the neck.
Yeah, I can't get stabbed in the neck. Yeah. Then we have the bit where Alice is staring blankly at the screen, walks out of the church, and she's carrying a bag with the bloody knife, suggesting something quite sinister.
Well, she pulls a knife out, doesn't she, and then stares into space.
Yes. Which, again, then goes back to suggesting that Alice isn't quite sane herself.
Well, which we already knew from the very beginning of the entire film anyway. So it's...
No, and that's the end of Alice, Sweet Alice. Mrs. Tridonis was the killer all along.
Yeah.
Alice wasn't.
Alice was still mental anyway, but then you realise she is mental at the end, but she was mental all the way through.
It's cut to fuck corner.
Cut to fuck corner. Let me just quickly talk. There was 3 seconds removed from the cat scene. It was actually extended at one point to 8 seconds of the squirming cat scene, which that's... Okay.
I didn't know it went on that long.
Yeah. The Arrow Blu-ray had alternative shots of Father Tom after he'd been stabbed, which is probably the bit you're talking.
Yeah, might be.
And I noticed, I did pick up on a minor bit that in the film, which we've also reviewed, 1989 Intruder, there is one of the translucent masks in the background on one of the scenes as a bit of a nod to this film.
You know, when the priests meet up in the rain at one point, I can't remember why, but there's a poster for Psycho in the background. Anyway, go on, you give it your score.
This film, it's loaded with Catholic symbolism, so religious slasher.
Very giallo.
It's America's first real stab at a giallo.
So.
I thought acting was generally good, apart from the hysterical screaming, which grated after a while. I thought the acting of Paula Shepherd as Alice was really good.
Really?
Yeah, I think she plays the part quite well. Few juicy stabs I quite liked, especially the scene in the rain, which is particularly good. It was seized during the video nasties craze, but they never got prosecuted.
Yeah, Section 3 was
a
a very lowest rung.
Yes. Everything looks kind of sleazy. It has a bit of a dirty feel, especially the rundown building they live in as well. It could have been cut down to about 90 minutes. It's like an hour and 40. It's probably a bit too long. It's strange, perverted, loads of adults giving Alice far too much attention, which is a bit I feel a bit uneasy about.
Definitely agree with that stuff.
Yeah. I've seen some clips of a better print. I would have liked to have seen a better print of it because the Arrow video, the Blu-ray version, looks really good actually, really good quality. I really liked it. But the difference is, giallo films, I don't think you're as keen. I didn't get that distracted by the device of the blatantly trying to point you in one direction. It doesn't distract me from the enjoyment of the film. So I quite liked it. I actually gave it 7.5. I really liked it.
Wow.
Yeah, really liked it. I do agree it does lull in places, but these films always tend to get distracted and you lose interest. But generally, overall, but giallo films are always, I really love them. So yeah, 7.5 for me. I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, well, I do like giallo films, but I like the really good ones, though, if you know what I mean. Like,
well, yeah, but you've got
Four Flies.
You've now got to tell me why it wasn't a really good one, because I thought it was quite good.
Yeah, I quite liked it.
Hit me with it.
The point is, when it lulled, there was nothing interesting. Where with Argento,
there's always a bit of visual.
Yeah, there's always sort of weird
that.
going off.
I
Just
get that.
the music's good during these, even
All
the
right,
weird
7.25.
slow bits.
What do you want from me? Go on.
But you know what I mean? To compare it,
No.
it's a bad copy of one. I think there was really good bits in it. And again, I haven't got a problem that there wasn't many people got killed, really, or it wasn't that graphic, although it was later on. There was certain scenes that were American melodramatic, and I don't mean that necessarily in a totally bad way, but when Italians do it, it is a bit more
continental.
It's properly over the top and overblown, where this was more like a soap opera, hand to forehead, oh dear, what's going off kind of thing. And it just, that got on my tits, especially the hospital scene. Almost lost 2 points just because they were just a bit of them two screaming at each other. And I was going,
so you're going to give it 8 then?
Yeah.
It takes it from a 10 to an 8.
No, I mean, and I did look at what I'd give, Argento films as well. I thought, I can't give it anywhere near. I was going to give it, fair, but it was just sort of middle of the road for me.
Middle of the road, so I'm
5. I just gave it 5. Yeah, I literally gave it 5. I said good parts, just not enough of them.
It's interesting because I actually watched it twice this week because, as you know, I like to watch it and then I like to watch it and make a few notes. Hence, I recite it word for word. I enjoyed it more because the reveal, it was of no consequence to me.
No, it wasn't.
So the second time I enjoyed it more than the first time.
I did. This is not awful. And I'd read a little bit about it being, pretty good, giallo. Well, not giallo film, actually, just a good horror film and quite a bit ahead of its time. I think it is ahead of its time. But now it seems quite dated and melodramatic, and that's the problem.
You've probably seen a lot of other of this
Much
type.
better, yeah.
Much better, yeah. Fine. So 7.5 for me, 5 for you. Brilliant. I would recommend. I think the one thing I would say it again. I would try and seek out a good print of it, because I think that will make a difference for people. I mean, generally, like you've said, it's very favourite. I mean, a lot of people quite like this film. It's got a lot of good reviews. Not that should influence ours. So yeah, so good. 2 different views on the film. The pedophilic flavour of the film even carries over into the trailer that I then watched.
Oh yeah.
Let me tell you, in the trailer I watched, Brooke Shields appears heavily in the trailer. A few of her kind of like almost adult kind of glamour shots in it. But the word is...
How old is she in the bloody film? That's a bit wrong in itself.
Well, I think she seems to be about 9, 12.
Oh,
she's young in the film anyway.
But
anyway,
and
the advert I saw was for Holy Terror, and it says... am I going to do the voice? Alice was too old to play with dolls, but too young to make love.
Oh.
And then it says, too old to play with boys, too young to play with men. So the trailers, I felt
that might be another reason, maybe why I knocked it down, because I didn't. I think it didn't help. It didn't make any odds.
But anyway, yeah. Apart from that, yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. And that's Alice, Sweet Alice. And again, just to Richard Alfred Soul, yeah.
What else did he do, by the way?
The only other film I found was 82's Pandemonium. I think it's a comedy horror. Yeah,
no.
Don't know much about it. But that was the only other film.
I remember seeing that as a kid. Yeah, I remember seeing his name on it now. Yeah. Yeah, it was a spoofy kind of horror film. There was that, and Wacko came out as well. They're like slasher comedy spoofs.
Yeah.
And really awful, unfortunately.
That's Alice, Sweet Alice. Hope you enjoyed that. If you want to check out a really, really good Giallo film, go for Deep Red.
No, I'm
10 out of 10. If you know of a really good film that we don't know about that you want to suggest, we'll watch it and we'll talk about it and rate it.
Message us on Twitter, because we're on there as well, and Instagram, although I'm not very good at that.
And the other thing we're going to do in upcoming episodes is we're going to talk about horror film posters, trailers, soundtracks. We're going to do a few top 5s, our favourites as well. So check them out. They're coming soon.
They ain't told me about this.
Yeah, well, get on board the TNA train. Goodbye. Bye. 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 Tony, say goodbye.
Ciao.